So when I was building this garage, I told you guys this would be one of the first projects in here. It's not the first, but it's the second. That's the first right there. But second's still good enough. So we need to probably rebuild the engine on here. This is a John Deere 4039D, and it's got a lot of blow-by coming out the bottom. And if you take the dipstick out, there's a lot of blow-by coming out of there. And it's very, very smoky. It smells like unburnt fuel, and you can't run it for more than a few minutes, otherwise you just end up with a headache because it's a lot of thick fumes coming out of here. And at the same time, it doesn't really want to start without ether, and even with ether, sometimes it doesn't want to start. Sometimes when it's warm, it doesn't want to start. So we may have two problems. There may be a problem with the injection pump, but I am 95% sure that we have low compression. I'm going to try to test the compression if I have the right adapters, but if not, this thing's not a big deal to get apart. So even without testing the compression, I can take the valve cover off and take the oil pan out, and I can start checking things pretty easy on this. There's access underneath for the oil pan, that's no problem. There's access on the top to take the head off if I need, that's no problem at all. So I guess the first thing I'm going to do is take off the valve cover, and we'll see what's going on underneath there. There's a possibility that it's maybe like a push rod or some sort of valve problem, but I highly doubt it. But we'll start from there and see where we go from there. Ooh, what is that? Now these are brand new injectors, and when I put them in, it didn't change anything. So I know that's not the problem. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a great way to test this because the injectors are not threaded in. So I have a leak down tester and I have a compression tester, but I don't think either one of them are going to do any good here. And there's no glow plug hole, so that doesn't help. So I got a leak down tester, and I got this nozzle. We could try that. I also got a nozzle for the compression test, but I don't think that's really going to do any good. We're going to be looking for 400 to 500 psi, so that thing is not going to hold it. Yeah, see, I'm putting 55 pounds in and I'm getting 20 pounds back, so definitely leaking quite a bit. And it's leaking right up through the push rod hole, so that's a direct port to the bottom of the engine. So that means there's pressure going into the cylinder and it's coming out of the cylinder going into the bottom of the engine. So basically that means that the rings are shot, the piston has a hole in it, the piston has a crack in it, the rings are cracked, the ring landings have some damage, something to do with holding compression. And I chose this cylinder because I know that these valves are both all the way up, or they should be all the way up anyways. But that's pretty much what I figured. So I think the next step is to take the head off and look down and see what the damage is. This engine is a sleeved engine, so shouldn't be any big deal to rebuild it, even if the cylinder walls are scratched, because they're sleeves. So here, let me just do this one more time, just because now is my only chance. So I'll put that on there. So I'm putting in 45 pounds, I'm getting back 13 or 15. Well, I'm getting back like 19. Yeah, it's just coming right out the push rod hole, so that's about what I thought. So if there was a bent push rod, or if there was a bad valve or a leaking valve, if there was a valve that was leaking in any way, shape, or form, it would either be coming out the intake or the exhaust. So if you aren't leaking out of the intake and the exhaust, and it's coming out of the bottom of the engine, then it's just leaking past the rings, one way or the other, through the piston or through the rings. So it's pretty much, like I said, that's pretty much what we figured. So I'm just going to start tearing this head out. I did just put that exhaust manifold on about 2 years ago, so that shouldn't be too hard to do. Even the old one, taking it out wasn't that hard. Intake shouldn't be that hard. Actually, this intake manifold is part of the head, so that's not really that hard at all. I think this is going to be an easy head to pull out of here. It's really just a matter of disconnecting a few things. I should have this out of here in no time. You know, I just put this exhaust manifold in here like less than 2 years ago, and this is actually the reason why I replaced it, because of this exact thing. So I don't know why they can't make parts that don't do that, but I guess I gotta get another one.
Are you a telehandler?
Yes. All right, so this is kind of crazy to say this, but 20 minutes later, and I think I'm ready to pull this head. I've never seen a machine so easy to work on. This is blowing my mind right here. Unless there's something I'm missing. Okay, I'm starting to smell like a real burnt oil here. I did not smell that before until I started taking these head bolts off. All right, so I'd say half an hour I got into it right now, and this head is ready to come out, bolts and all. Well, no holes in the piston. I guess that's good. No cracks. But we do have some scratching on this piston, which almost makes me wonder if maybe just this cylinder has broken rings. Let's see. Well, this one's got a little bit of scratching too. Yeah, it's definitely got a lot of scratching. Just on the top of the piston, which doesn't really matter. It's just an indicator for something bigger. Okay, so rotated the engine, and you know, the cylinder walls are not too bad. Looking for any cracks on the head. I don't see anything. Nothing stands out really, other than the scratching on the top of the pistons, but I think at this point what we need to do is get the oil pan off the bottom and see what's going on. We need to get these pistons out of here and just check. I really think we're dealing with just rings here, but I mean, it's easy enough to put these sleeves in here. I might as well just do the whole thing, but let's not even make assumptions. Let's go ahead and get the bottom end torn out and get the bearings off, and let's see what's going on. from the outside. What is it?
What am I zipping off from the outside?
Man, that's like a different size bolt there. That's weird. It's like 1.16". Oh man, I don't think I even have 1.16".
Oh, this guy. I see.
Oh, it is 1.16". Hey, is that our... Go ahead. Alright. I don't think I can get this oil pan out without getting this off. I just don't see, I mean, the weld is painted and everything. I don't see why they would weld it and bolt it. That doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. All right, so this job just got a whole lot bigger. So what I thought was really easy turned out to be not so easy. So let me explain what's going on here. That cross member, I thought I could just unbolt that and drop it down. Turns out that that's welded to the frame and bolted. So there is no taking that cross member out. So there's a couple different ways I can get to this oil pan. Number one, I could take the back axle off, move that back. I'd have to jack up the back of this machine, do a bunch of work with hydraulics and brakes and stuff, and then move that back. And then I might be able to drop the back of the pan down far enough to slide it that way. You're not going forward with the pan. That's not going to happen because the transmission's in the way. I thought about jacking up the entire engine and transmission to be able to avoid this cross member, and then I could slide the pan forward, but it won't go up far enough. It'll go up about 6 inches, and that's not enough. I need probably almost 10 inches to be able to clear the bottom of that pan going forward here, because it has to go underneath of the transmission if I do that. So if you can imagine, that pan's got to drop down and then it's got to go underneath this. So probably need more than 10 inches to do that. So that's not an option. So another option I have is I could cut this cross member and then weld it back when I'm done. That would be the quick and easy solution, and I think that would work fine. And I was very strongly contemplating doing that. So the other option, which I was not aware of, I had no idea, this blew me away, this took me for a surprise. In the manual, they say that there is a skid on the whole bottom of this machine that slides out with the engine, transmission, pump, axle, everything is attached to it. So that's what those bolts are for. So this right here is a skid, and it slides back out of the machine with all the components on it. And basically they say that if you want to remove the engine or transmission, that's how you do it. So basically, here's the frame of the machine and here's the skid, and it slides back. So you unbolt all these bolts and the whole skid, counterweight, radiator, engine, transmission, pumps, bunch of stuff up there, all slides back as one unit. And you slide it back as far as you need to get whatever component you're trying to get to. So you can slide it all the way back so that the pumps, which are the front foremost of the machine, the pumps will be right here. And then you'll have access to the pumps, the transmission, and the engine. The engine will be all the way out here. So in order to do this, there's a bunch of steps that I need to do to disconnect hydraulic lines, some electrical stuff, some linkage, and I gotta drop the front axle, I gotta chalk up the wheels, I got to put some support underneath the axle to stabilize it so it can't pivot, and then they want me to support back here. They said an overhead crane, but I don't have one. So what I was thinking is I could pull my crane in, the big one that's right there still, I could just pull that over here, reach out with the boom, just sit right over top of this, take some really heavy duty straps and put them around the back of this, and support this. Because basically you need to be able to support this while you pull the skid out. So it needs to be substantial enough to support this kind of weight, which I guess if you're taking the counterweight off and the boom is supported on that side, then it's really not that much weight that you're supporting, because you're sliding the back axle out with it, so there's nothing to support the frame anymore. So that crane holding this back end up will be what's supporting this whole thing, while the axle and skid, engine, transmission, and pump come out as one unit. So I was blown away by this. I had no idea that you could even do this, but it only took 2 minutes in the manual, and I figured out real quick that that's how you gain access to all this stuff in here. And it's really stupid because that oil pan is right there, and they could have designed it so that that cross member was able to be unbolted. But here's the other thing. Like I said, back to the cutting the cross member. I think I could easily do that, weld it back together. I could even put some plates on there to reinforce it. I would never see a problem with that. I wouldn't lose any structural strength from that. But here's the other whole thing about this equation. I have a leak in the front here, and it's pretty bad. It's pretty substantial. It's coming from the transmission, and I cannot get to it. There's just no way. It's like behind a pump where the pump mounts to the transmission, and there's just like no access in there to deal with that. So that's what led me down the path of doing what I think I'm going to do, which is pulling the whole skid out. Because at that point I can tackle that leak, and another huge bonus is I can pressure wash everything off in here. Because to be honest with you, this machine needs like an entire day of cleaning up. It's just so grimy with dust, dirt, grease, oil, transmission fluid, hydraulic fluid, you name it, it's caked. There's some places that are almost an inch thick of just solid sludge in there. So it would be really good to pull this out. So not only would I have access to everything, all the important components would be all in the open out there, but at the same time, then all this would be a giant cavity where I could get in and clean everything. That would be really nice. So doing that and fixing the transmission leak is going to be two things that are a huge deal that made me decide that I'm pretty sure this is the route I want to go. If I was really strapped for time and I wanted to just get this engine fixed and be done, then I would surely cut that cross member. But at this point, yeah, I don't really have a lot of time, but at the same time, I'm here now and I can do it, and I know if I don't do it now, it'll never get done. That engine will get fixed and I'll just deal with that leak forever. And I'd really rather not do that. I'd rather fix this thing up because this thing has already earned its keep many times over. So I think it deserves it. So yeah, I'm like 95% sure that's what I'm gonna do. So I just ran through the whole plan with you guys. Filming this has been a little bit hard because the light coming in from that way makes it so you can't see anything if you don't have the right angle. So I'm trying to get the right angles, but yeah, it's not easy. So bear with me, and I think this is going to turn into a huge project, but we got the garage to do it, we got the equipment to do it, and I think I have the will to do it. So let's get going.
what it is it's not going to come off because this has got to slide through this thing too. Same way that slid. One slides through one groove and the other slides through the other groove. Okay. There you go.
The next step, it says remove the hydraulic pump, or you can take off the main supply line and the pressure line. So I guess we got to take these two pressure lines off, and that is the supply line down there. And that thing's like 2.5 inches thick. See, I could unbolt these flanges here, but I don't have anything to cap and plug that, so probably just take the fitting off right here because I know I got caps and plugs for that. I'm pretty sure this is going to be JIC. If you want to hand me a, is it like number either 16 or 20. The biggest one you got in there. So I need another one like that, and I need the cap. Well, I guess there's not that much that's coming out because it's off.
Well, that's the ticket. Hopefully. I just want to get them loose. Alrighty. Hallelujah. Good golly. Man, that thing is so rusted. I don't know where that nut went. Oh, there it is. Holy crap, Oli. It won't come out. There it goes. All the difference a battery, fresh battery makes, I guess. Right there. Yes. Oh my God.
Alright, so the manual lied. It told me that there was only 6 bolts on each side. But so far we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And these bolts right here are not coming out without taking off this plate here, which is what holds on the counterweight. So you can see that's the head of the bolt, and you can't back it out unless you have this assembly off of here. And this assembly is, well, this part here is 4 inches thick, solid steel, and that is welded to that piece, which is 3 inches of solid steel. And then this piece and this piece are welded together, and that's what this counterweight is bolted onto. That's like the holder for the counterweight. So in order to take that whole piece out, we got to take the counterweight out. And I'm thinking this might be too much for the skid steer to handle. I don't know. I don't know the specs on this counterweight, but this is 10 inches of solid steel here by 14 inches this way. So, and then it's like 4 feet wide, and then it extends out this way. So I have no idea how much that is. I'm sure I could do some calculations, but I'm thinking that we need to separate this counterweight first from the holder, and then we need to take out the holder. See, you're supposed to be able to take out the counterweight with the whole skid. It comes with it, but you can't get the bolts out without taking this out. So not only do we have 10 bolts instead of 6, but we also have this whole thing that they didn't tell you about in the manual. Also, these bolts won't come out until we get the counterweight off as well, so we definitely have to take this counterweight off. Boy, that's flexing pretty good. I'm gonna bend that thing.
There it goes. That's a good sound.
Oh man.
2 more of those and you can get it with the impact hole.
Okay, that's something. Something is happening. Oh. Alright. Alright, let's try the other one.
Alright, let me get my glasses.
Alright, so I thought this would be easy and I could just put this forks underneath of it, but at the same time, if I do that, then I can't get to these bolts here. So that's where I need it to be able to get the bolts out through that hole. So I guess we're gonna have to put some wood on the forks so that we can get it up in the air. You know, Pat, another option is we could put a jack on each side of that thing just to be able to like support it while the bolts are coming out, and once the bolts are coming out, then we can bring the skid steer in. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't like that.
Yeah.
That thing probably weighs as much as my truck.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice to span all the way across.
Could have took that thing and then put.
How about, you know, I'd really prefer almost like that's cracked.
I'd like 2x12s.
Yeah, let's get something more substantial. At this point, I mean,
We got 6x6 over here.
yeah, but I want something wide, so otherwise the thing could teeter on there, and I don't want that. Yeah. Let's just take like
This one right here.
take this one right here.
This guy.
I guess it can really be as long as it wants, honestly. Just until we get it outside, then I'll just drop it on the ground. I don't care. Right? Isn't it? We could be as long as we want. As long as I can fit out.
It's not wider than that's going to impede you getting out the door.
Yeah. Unless this is like seized in here.
No, it was moving. It was moving. Let's just get the other side. Which that might not even be anything.
Against a brick wall.
Good for the impact tool.
I wonder if all the bolts are pretty much the same. I mean, I know there's the two bigger ones, but just zip it from the other side. Bolt was worn down to nothing.
Yeah, some of them are really rusted. Alright, and then we just have that one behind the fuel tank that's
There's like 3 inches of solid, whatever this is. Now these fuel tank fittings, they might almost be JIC. I'm gonna have to order a whole nother JIC kit. One of them's a small one, and the next one's probably the one that we don't have.
It's the smallest one?
Yeah. And then the next one's like a 3/8, which I don't think we have that. I could really use like the air nozzle. The air nozzle. It's gonna leak pretty good. Let's get this.
Are you peeing? No, this is.
All right, so I was trying to retract the jib on this because it's just too long with this jib sticking out. This is like, I don't know, looks like almost 30 feet here. So this retracts, this is a manual jib, and this retracts into the other parts of the boom. But for some reason, I could not get the cylinder to go out far enough to pin it here and then retract it. It would get to like right there and it wouldn't go any further. So we've been trying all kinds of different things. We've been at this for a while. And then what happened was I blew a giant hydraulic line in here trying to force it to go. So of course today's Friday, and that's the day that I always blow a hydraulic line because then I can't get one until Monday. So at this point this thing is stuck here in front of everything. It's just in the way. So now we got to go to plan B because I don't want to just not do anything all weekend. So I think at this point I'm gonna go over there, get my excavator. Let's see, where is it? It's over there somewhere. It's over there somewhere. I gotta like bring it all the way around and all the way around this way and then that way because we can't go this way because the excavator is right over there. We can't go this way because we can't get underneath the boom. So I gotta go like around and hopefully I can squeeze through here. And then we're gonna use the excavator to lift up the back of the machine, slide that out, and then the excavator is going to settle, so I can't just keep it there like I was going to do with the crane. So what we're going to have to do is slide it out, and as soon as we slide it out, we'll have to support it underneath. That way it stays there. think the only way this is going to happen is if I bring the other crane over here. I think that's the only way it's going to happen.
You're lifting up the machine.
Yeah, I know. That's the point. I need to get the machine lifted because the back axle is going to slide out with it. All right, so back in business. Today is Saturday, and I got a hose for this thing, and I'm really happy about that because number one, it's the weekend, and I'm just really glad I was able to get a hose. Number two, it was a lot cheaper than normal. So this hose right here, which looks like a -20 1.25 inch, but it's not. This is a 1-inch hose. The older ones are just bigger. I was able to get this at my local Napa, and it was only $200. Now, some may say that's crazy for a little 2-foot hose like that, but when I replaced the same exact hose last year, I went to a place that specializes in hydraulics. That's all they do is make hoses all day long and fittings and stuff. It cost me almost $600 for this hose. And I just got the same one at Napa for $200. And I did it on a Saturday. So another cool thing is I was able to get this manual jib retracted by myself, which is really nice because that was like a 3-person thing yesterday, but I don't have anybody here today, so I was able to manage it by myself. And the way I did it was with my excavator. I tried pushing on the manual jib with the skid steer and it just didn't have enough, because you got to lift it up and push it, because what it is that jib doesn't see a lot of movement because it's a manual jib, so nobody ever uses it. So God knows when the last time that was used, probably 20 or 30 years ago, and there was not a drop of grease on the boom, and so it just didn't want to slide. And so I couldn't get the rod to go all the way out to be able to pin it here. So it would go to like right here and it just would not go any further, and that's because I needed to push it just a little bit more. So I was able to do that with the excavator, and the first push, the first like foot, it really was locked up, but after that we put grease on everything else. So after it made it past that first foot, it kept going pretty easy. But we couldn't grease inside of that foot because that foot was inside of the boom, so that was where it was locked up. But once I pushed that free, I was able to get that jib pushed pretty freely, and then I locked in the pin and locked in the other pin. So now this is back to the way that it was before, and it's much shorter because I don't need anywhere near this long, or especially another almost 30 feet long, to be able to do what I'm doing here. We tried several other things like putting the excavator over there and trying to lift it up with that. The problem is we need the skid steer on the bottom to be able to pull out the skid, and the excavator sitting on top was like stretched out like this, so it had no power. Like when you go like this, there's just not a lot of power with the excavator. The most power is when you're digging and the arm is like this, and actually the most power is when it's down below. If you read the chart, going below the ground level is where you have the most power. But anyways, I just did not have enough power for this. I'm gonna guess that I need somewhere around 10,000 pounds to lift this. The skid steer didn't have it. The skid steer would lift the tires, but not off the ground. It seemed like it still had a little ways to go, but it did lift it quite a bit. I have the chart for it somewhere, but this crane, I'm gonna say it's somewhere around 30,000 pounds of lift with everything fully retracted, but it flat out. Because if you lift this up and it's like this, and you're lifting something right here, then it has 56,000 pounds of capacity. But when you're flat out all the way over here, even though you're all the way retracted, you're flat out, so it has probably about half of that capacity. But it's more than enough for what we need. So at this point, I'm just gonna bring the crane over here, put it on here, see if I can lift it up, just take some weight off the wheels, and then I don't know if I'm gonna be able to slide this skid out by myself, because you really gotta have people watching things inside to make sure nothing's caught up. And a good example is that right there. Those fittings caught the top of the radiator. I don't know if it punctured it, but it definitely did some damage to it. Luckily, I was gonna bring this radiator to get it repaired anyways, because the bottom is leaking where the oil cooler is, the hydraulic cooler. That's leaking on both sides, so I want that fixed anyways. So if the top needs to be fixed, it's no big deal. So also, it's no big deal to take it out because I was already gonna do that anyways. And you don't have to take it out to do this, but apparently in my situation, it's probably a better idea because otherwise I'm gonna break something. The filler neck here just barely clears. It's like a 1/16 of an inch, but for some reason these fittings here just won't allow this to work. So it might actually be quite a bit of a chore to get this radiator out of here. But that's the joy of working by myself today. I don't have to worry about other people waiting on me. I can just take my time and get this done. So the first thing I want to do is get my excavator out of here, move the crane over here, which is nice because that frees up a big area over there. But at the same time, it also makes a cluster here. So anyways, let me get things going here. So I don't know how well you guys can see this, but right below that crank pulley there, it's pretty wet. So I'm thinking that the crank seal is bad, and it's a great time to change it. You can see everything is just caked in here. So now I think we're ready to pull this skid out. And remember, the axle and everything there is going with it. From right here to right here, this, everything is sliding out. I'm still alone. Today's Sunday, but tomorrow I'm thinking I'm gonna go to Construction Tool Warehouse and get some rigging straps, some slings, about 4 feet long, because I got my boom all the way up about 2 inches from the bottom cord of the trusses right now, and you can see where the hook is right now. So I'm thinking if I retract the boom a little bit, bring it right over top of that pin right there, then I was thinking I can put 2 straps, 4-foot slings around this pin right here, which is about 3-inch diameter, and 4 foot would leave 2 foot and 2 foot. So I could lower the block and hook down about 12 inches or so, and then I can go up to 12 inches up, because right now the block is like 2 inches from the sheave right now, so it can't go up unless we bring the boom down and then use the boom to go up. But I wanted to use the winch to go up. So at this point, I can't do really anything until I have some help tomorrow and I get those slings. So I guess we'll go and work on something else, and I'll check back in with you guys. All right, so here it is Monday. I bought some slings. I got some 5/8 wire rope sling, and these are 6-footers. And then I got 5-footers, and these are rated for 7.8 tons in a basket, which is what I'm gonna be using them for. So I'm gonna actually have 2 of them on there. So the 2 of these could easily pick up the entire machine. But I wanted one of these to support the back of the machine just in case the other one breaks, which I seriously highly doubt that would happen. But if I have 2 slings on there, which both of them are capable of lifting up the back of this, then we should be more than good enough. But I wanted to get different sizes because I need that to be just like super precise. I need that block to be as far down as it can be, so I have at least like 12 inches of lifting capacity, or capability anyways. And it's not a bad idea to have these slings laying around anyways, having different sizes of them. I also got some 4-foot slings, which are the synthetic, and these are actually rated at more than that 5/8 wire rope. So those are rated at 7.8 tons in a basket, and these are rated at 18,600 in a basket. So 4-footers, 5-footers, 6-footers, depending on what we need. And I also got a 2-ton come along, which is gonna be for actually pulling this out. That way we don't have to have a skid steer here. So I can hook that onto the crane and pull this out, which we really shouldn't need that much. So another thing I gotta watch out for is having too much of an angle on these slings here, because you don't wanna have much more than a 45-degree angle. I think you can go up to a 30-degree angle, but ideally 45 or more is better.
Guess you're gonna go a little more than that.
All right, so now I need you guys to be on watching underneath duty.
I don't know what all comes with this and what all doesn't.
There we go. What?
I said, okay, that's sliding.
What?
Does this, okay, so does this transmission jack have to be under the front of this for it to spin?
I don't think so. It says it does, but you can see there's transmission mounts underneath there, so. Everything's still looking good?
What's that noise I just heard?
Oh yeah. That's cool.
What the fuck that was?
That was a pin. I could about roll this back with my hands now. This is easy. Look at that. No stress at all. Oh yeah. You can hear all the crusties coming out now. Alright, I'm at it. Come along now. What? I could probably roll this with my hands.
We both have to get on each side.
Yeah. Lucas, is everything pretty much clear back there? Because once these axles get out of the back of this, I'd rather you not be down there.
That's in my ear.
I'm just saying. If there was a time.
See the engine.
It is going to get front heavy right now. At any moment now, it's going to get a little bit front heavy. It's going to want to tip this whole thing, so that I think that's why they want a transmission jack on it for this moment.
Okay.
Should we put a block of wood on it?
Oh, it's got a. Is it going with it? You know the thick that you want to go with compressed air. We put a little grease on that sliding plate, then it'll go back in easier too.
Yep.
I mean, it's not so bad up there, but down here it's pretty rusty. We should also plug this up with a rag or something. Probably, actually, we should do that. We should just check lots of things because there's going to be lots of stuff flying. And any hoses that we got, we should put something in. So I'm trying to put together what would make the most sense here while I have this engine and transmission out here. I'm thinking the best thing for me to do is just pull the engine right now, leave the transmission there. I don't see any evidence of the rear main seal leaking, but I've come this far. I might as well just unbolt the transmission, pull the engine out, do the rear main seal. I know the crank seal is leaking, so I can change that while it's in here, but something's got to happen here because this piece of frame is still in here. So that didn't change because we pulled this out of here. So we either need to jack up the whole assembly enough where I can get that oil pan off, which doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but at the same time, I think it wouldn't be that much more work to just unbolt the transmission, leave the bell housing on, and just pull the motor with the bell housing, get that out of here, which leaves better access to clean things, and also leaves it so that we can take the engine away from here and pressure wash it. Because I want to pressure wash everything, but I want very minimal pressure washing because I don't have a drain in here. So what we're going to have to do is, as we're pressure washing, we'll have to have a broom just pushing the water out, which is not a big deal, and it'll dry up pretty soon. But anything that's really caked on, I want to get off first with either air or a screwdriver, just something to get the really thick stuff off. That way we don't have to spend too much time with the pressure washer. Because a pressure washer doesn't really use as much water as people think it does. And if you only have to pressure wash a few things, it'll get the concrete wet and then it'll only be a day or two and it'll be dry. It'll soak right into the concrete. But we got lots of crusty stuff in here. So we also want to pressure wash out inside of here too. It's too bad that we couldn't figure out a way to roll this thing out of here, but it is what it is. We'll just have to deal with it. Pressure wash it out in here and just use a lot of speedy dry and clean it up with brooms and stuff. Yeah, I could have put a drain in this garage and I thought about it, but it would have been a lot more work. And then we also would have had to have some sort of water catchment system. So I just decided against that. So right now, I think the first thing we're going to do is unbolt that engine and just get that out of here.
if we take blocks and put them in between there, then we can take it off of this thing.
Yeah. All right, so I'm realizing that this bell housing for the transmission to the transmission is sealed off with some sort of gasket making material, and there's actually a plug right here. So apparently this bell housing is supposed to have fluid in it. Otherwise, why would they have a plug right there? And I checked, there's a port on the top, and I checked, and there is a lot of fluid in there. So we got to drain that out. While the whole engine and transmission assembly is tilted this way, we'll drain that out, and then once we drain that out, we can lift it back up. And then I need to unbolt this bell housing, keep the bell housing on the engine. I don't know why that was so tight.
Never seen bell housing fluid before.
Yeah. I'm almost thinking if we could get it up a little bit more where I could put this thing on end, that'd be best. A little bit.
Hold on, it's just gotta go like this.
Needs to. Or is that like
I think I gotta go up a little more.
it's
No, I'll try and do it slowly, but nothing's ever
you do
slowly.
two hands, it usually works pretty good.
Okay. I'm gonna kind of leave a little bit of.
Well,
Don't seem very tight for a motor bolt.
well, it's a small bolt. It's pretty tight for a small bolt.
Okay, so yeah, we need a strap now.
Wow, that broke a lot easier than I thought. All right, that's probably good enough. Now let's just pull it away.
Hold on, something on the other side.
Oh.
Yes. Okay.
I'd like to get this over there in the open. possible? That's stupid. How the hell do you take the bolt, the bell housing off then? Unless you're supposed to unbolt the ring gear from the other side. Ground for the whole machine goes right here. Note to self. Note to future self. Okay. Just set that right on the That's tight. The bearings are good. We knew that though. Okay. Yeah, I'm not finding anything wrong with the rings or the pistons or even the liners. So far, I've only done 2, but I guess all it takes is 1 though. Still nothing wrong yet. Alright, so not good news. I thought it would be something obvious, and it's not. All of the liners, all of the pistons, all the rings, everything seems to be fine. I don't see anything that's obvious. So that makes me believe that something might be off with the timing. I just don't see how that's possible though, because you saw the leak down test. It was definitely leaking past the cylinder. Does not make any sense.
Ooh, wee. Well, that's just the grease that I got off the back. Bigger than my foot.
gotta come out like that. This one just isn't on the chain yet. Maybe I have to go down.
I feel like if you let the top go all the way in and the bottom come out, maybe that might work.
I think it's one or the other.
There you go.
Why they gotta make it like a maze like that?
Yeah. Gonna have to do it enough to loosen it and then take it out by hand. Oh, we got wires here.
I don't know.
You trust that a lot? Because I don't trust that at all.
Well, it says it's for 1,000 pounds. This is only half of that. We didn't trust it last time either, but it worked. Spin a lot.
I'm sure. Lock it in any direction.
Well, this thing is like crooked. Alright, so that was a little bit of a chore to get this on the engine stand. They want you to mount it from the side like this. I didn't realize that until I read the manual, but also I got the flex plate or flywheel, whatever you want to call it, off. And the only way to do that, I could not get that out of there. The only way to do that was come out through the sides. These little grooves, just barely, I'm talking like by a 32nd of an inch, let you twist it like that and then slide it out. that's the only way that that was coming out. So I wanted to mount this right away, but I could not get that out, and the manual doesn't say anything about it. And another thing that happened was the manual lied to me about the bolts that go in here. They wanted a 9/16 with a 12 pitch to go in these 3 holes, but it was actually a 1/2 inch bolt that goes in there, so they lied to me. It's like really loud in here. It's raining out pretty hard, but this is so satisfying to know that I'm in this big open space that is not getting rained on, and it is raining cats and dogs out here. It's really loud, but I'm glad to be in here. It's also really cool knowing that I didn't even spend any money on a roof yet, and it's still waterproof. That's just that underlayment up there. Sounds like it's getting heavier and heavier. I got enough overhang where the water isn't coming in the windows. That's nice. Bone dry. And look at that, at the same moment it's raining, the sun is shining. That's crazy. So at this point, I'm kind of waiting on parts for this engine here. I ordered a whole rebuild kit for it, so we're going to try to do as much as we can on it. And there's really not a lot I can do until then. I could clean up a little bit, but that's about it. I think the next move for me is going to be chasing down this leak in here. I always had a suspicion that it was behind this pump right here, but I could never really see. But I noticed that it was dripping right here just a little bit ago, red fluid. So that means that that has to be transmission fluid. So basically the pump right here runs off of the transmission. Probably there's a gear in there, and that powers that pump. That pump is for the hydraulics, so that's not going to have red fluid in it. So where it mounts to the transmission here, I'm thinking that that seal is bad. So I think the easy thing to do is just remove this pump from here, which isn't too bad because all the lines are disconnected right now. So all I got to do is unbolt it and it comes right out of there. But it's a lot easier to do it right now while I have room. I can just go in there and I can get to it very easy. And I got jacks underneath this. That's a 6x6, and I got a 6x6 on the other side. Plus the crane's holding it up, but we don't want to rely on the crane because something could happen. But these are not going anywhere, so we're good to be inside of there. This pump is pretty heavy. I'm also expecting a lot of fluid to come out. Well, that's interesting. There is no seal here. I don't know why, but that would kind of explain it, because this is definitely someplace that sees fluid. Unless there's a seal behind this little, or whatever this is. I don't even know what this is, but there is some like writing on it. Yeah, I don't know why that wouldn't have a seal on it. Definitely someplace that's gonna leak fluid. And it's facing downhill right now, so if I wipe it clean and it's still dripping, then you know it definitely gets fluid. Pretty sure that's where our leak is. but you can see there's no seal here. There's a seal inside of here that seals the pump from the transmission, but that fluid is red, and this is a pump. It should not have red fluid. So I'm almost thinking we can just use a gasket maker there, but it also has some writing on it. It says 3T3007X, and then it says CAT, and then it looks like an R symbol for like a copyright. I don't know what that's about. That's like somebody engraved that or something. I don't know. It's like handwritten. It's kind of weird. But let's wipe this clean. And if we come back in a little while and it's got more red fluid, then we know that this is our problem. There's also a little bit of metal shavings in there too. I don't know if you can see those, but I can definitely see it's still leaking. It's already about to form a drop on the bottom there. And this is interesting. I don't know why there wouldn't be a seal on it. I don't know how I'd even find that seal, to be honest with you, because the transmission has nothing to do with the pump. So I don't know where I'd get the seal from. Let's just pop that circlip off and see what's behind there. Maybe there's a seal behind there. Maybe there's not supposed to be any fluid at all in there. So now I'm confused. I don't know if there's supposed to be a seal behind that, because I know there's a bearing right there. But is it supposed to seal behind that? I don't know. Well, if there's a seal behind that, if you think about it, it should be doing the same thing as the seal in front of it. So you're not blocking off pressure where you shouldn't. You're pretty much just blocking fluid from going into the pump or going out of the pump housing. So whether there's a seal around that shaft or there's a seal on the outside here, they both should do the same thing. So I think the easier thing to do without tearing all into this is to just put some gasket maker on here and be done. I mean, I hate to kind of be a hack job like that, but at the same time, sealing it around that shaft is doing the same thing. So let's figure out why we got so much blow-by. Now that we got the pistons and one of the sleeves out, let's go ahead and check for ring gap. So the first thing we want to check is the actual bore diameter, which should be 4.192 to 4.194. So 4.192. So now let's go ahead and put a ring in here. Wow, okay, look at that. Look at that ring gap right there. That's like 1/8 of an inch. Let's measure that. I don't have a feeler gauge that'll even go up that far. So let's put this in here. That's 0.111. That should be 0.013. So that's a huge gap. That's over 1/10 of an inch when we should be down to 1/100th of an inch. So just to give you an idea, that's what the gap is right now. And that's what it should be. Should be the thickness of a piece of paper or thereabouts. And it's all the way up here. That's a huge gap. Let's check another one. And there is a part of the top of this sleeve that didn't get worn down because the piston ring doesn't go all the way up there, so you can feel there's like a ridge there. So I'm going below that ridge because that's where the actual combustion is happening. So again, you can see that's not even measurable with a feeler gauge. So that's going to be our problem right there. So 0.13, wow, that's a lot. That's a huge gap. So these rings are very well worn, or they don't look that worn. It almost seems like somebody put the wrong rings in here or something. I don't know, that seems like it'd be super obvious though, because it would start smoking immediately and they would have blow by. I suppose anything's possible though when you're dealing with somebody that you don't know doing something before you. Who knows, maybe they tried to do an in-frame on this and it didn't work out, so they just gave up and sold it. I don't know, it's possible. The rings don't look thin, they don't really look that worn, but they have to be. So either the rings are very worn, which would cause the outside diameter to be able to spread apart. Because if you got like 20 thou gone around the whole outside of this, then it can open up like this. And if the outside diameter was not so worn out, it would be pushing it in like this, because the outside diameter would be bigger. So I'm leaning towards the fact that they're just worn out. The book doesn't give me the specs on how wide the actual ring should be. A lot of times they do, and then that way you can actually take the rings and just go like this and figure out what they're supposed to be. But this one doesn't tell me, so I have no idea if that is the problem or if somebody just put in the wrong rings. But either way, I'm glad that I figured that out, because I didn't want to be taking this whole thing apart and then figure out, oh, it was the injection pump the whole time. Which I knew it almost couldn't be because of the blow-by. But I don't know, sometimes you overlook things and the timing can be off and that can cause smoking. But this was more than smoking, this was causing blow-by. Smoking was a product of the blow-by, but if you just have smoking, that could definitely be an injection pump, or it could be something with the timing, injectors, it could be a host of things. But blow-by coming out the tube down at the bottom, or just in general compression check or a leak down test will show you blow-by. That sort of thing can really only be caused by exhaust being pushed past the rings, which could either be scratched cylinders, it could be worn rings, it could be a broken ring, it could be a broken piston, it could be a hole in the piston, a crack in the piston. There's a bunch of things that it could be, but it has to be pretty much within the cylinder unless you have some really oddball thing going on where the exhaust gas is getting by. Possibly from the head gasket, it's possible, but I don't think so. But the head gasket on this looked perfectly fine, so I knew that wasn't the issue. So at this moment, we're waiting for parts. I ordered a rebuild kit, so we will be putting that in. I'm gonna try not to take out the crank. I really don't want to get involved in that. The bearings on this are fine. The main bearings I haven't checked yet, but this kit comes with the main bearings, so if we can just roll them in there without actually taking out the crankshaft, then I'll probably do that. But I'm trying not to get involved in taking out the crankshaft, because if you get involved in that, you might as well just disassemble the entire thing and just clean every part, machine every part, put every new seal on it. I'm not really trying to get involved in that. I'm doing like an in-frame that's out of frame. That's kind of what I'm doing. Because if you were doing an in-frame, you wouldn't be doing that anyways, so. Alright guys, so this has been a pretty interesting but large project, and I was going to make it all in one video, but there's some things that made me decide to kind of go with two videos. Number one, it's just getting really long as it is right now, but number two, I just got news back from the machine shop that I use, and he did a Magnaflux on the head and there's a whole bunch of cracks in it, so I got to get a new head ordered up. We got to get the parts switched over from the old head. I'm still waiting for some parts for this machine. I got some parts, so I've already started on the second video, but we're gonna cut it here so that we don't have to cut the rest of the project short. Otherwise the video would be like 4 hours long. So far we've got this all cleaned out here and almost ready to put things back in. One thing I did have a question for you guys. Maybe you guys can help me. On this pump here, what would you guys do? Would you just put some of that, the right stuff, that gasket maker on here? Or is there a seal that I'm supposed to get for here? As I can't figure that out. I think this is a T12000. But I can't read the nameplate on it, so I don't know for sure. But according to my research, that's what should be in this machine. One person said it could be a T11000, but I have not even heard of that. I don't even know if that's a thing. But it seems like any T12000 would have the same port. Maybe not the pump on it, but it would have the same port. Maybe it's blocked off on some machines. But I am very curious as to what you guys would do. I think that I can actually access this once it's back in and all the way forward. I think I should have access to it. It's not going to be nearly as easy, but it should be accessible if I need to. So I'm going to wait to see what you guys would do on that before I put that pump back in and seal it up. It almost appears like there is actually a gasket that you're supposed to put in there, like a rubber, like a thick rubber, like a oversized O-ring that you put in there, like a flat one. But I don't really know, and I don't know if the gasket maker is good to be that thick. I don't even know if it needs to be that thick, to be honest with you. So with there being cracks in the head, I still don't think that that was the problem, though. I'm pretty sure that the ring gap is the problem. But maybe the head contributed to that. He said there was cracks around the injector ports, and he also said that there was cracks around the valve seats, and a couple of the valve seats were burned. So that may have contributed to it running a little bit rough, but I highly doubt that that's the compression problem. So I'm gonna switch to something else until I get all the parts to this. But that's it for this video, guys, and I will see you on the next one.